The colony on Aaron 9 had always been quiet. It was not a rich world or an important one. It had wide gray plains, cold blue skies, and long nights where the stars felt close enough to touch. Humans settled there because it was safe, far from borders and politics. They built schools, farms, and small cities made of steel and glass. Children learned under artificial suns. Families believed the galaxy had finally become peaceful. Kang Arium stood on a maintenance platform outside the power dome, checking a faulty relay. She had lived on Aaron 9 for 8 years. She liked the silence and the slow days. Her brother worked in hydroponics. Her neighbors waved when they passed. There was no military base, no heavy weapons, and no reason for fear. That belief died in a single hour. The warning came too late. The colony sensors picked up unknown ships entering orbit, but the signal lag and system limits delayed confirmation. By the time local control tried to contact them, the sky was already burning. Lee Doyun, a security officer with little real combat training, ran through the central transit hall as alarms screamed. He saw people running in every direction. The screens showed foreign symbols and flashing red warnings. Orbital strikes hit the outer districts first. Buildings collapsed in silence before the shockwaves arrived. Glass turned into clouds of knives. Doyon tried to organize evacuations, but there was no plan for this. There was no enemy name, no demand, no explanation. Only destruction. Alien dropships fell through the atmosphere like dark rain. They landed near civilian centers, not military targets. Energy weapons cut through shelters. Automated drones hunted anything that moved. The attackers called it a containment action. They claimed later that the colony was a risk. No proof was ever given. Arium never reached the shelter. The ground shook as a blast tore through the power dome. She was thrown against the metal rail. When she tried to stand, the sky above her was filled with fire. Her last message, broken and full of static, reached the relay network by accident. "We did nothing," she said. "Please, tell Earth." "We did nothing." Then the signal ended. Within 3 hours, Aaron 9 was gone. No surrender was accepted. No evacuation corridor was offered. Over 9 million civilians were dead. The attackers left as quickly as they came, far across space. On Earth, the first reports arrived as damaged data packets. At first, analysts thought it was a system failure. Then more signals came in. Distress calls, sensor logs, civilian footage. The truth formed slowly. Then all at once, Hanmira sat in a dark analysis room in Seoul, staring at the projected ruins of the colony. She'd spent her career arguing that humanity must trust the Galactic Union. She believed cooperation was the future. As she watched the final images from Aaron 9, her hands began to shake. There had been no vote. No emergency council session. No attempt at contact, just death. Governments across Earth went silent. News networks stopped regular programming. Memorial lights appeared in cities across the planet. People gathered in streets and public squares, watching the same images again and again. Parents held their children tighter. Veterans felt old instincts return. At first, humanity waited. They waited for apologies, for investigations, for justice. The Galactic Union issued a statement 3 days later. It expressed regret for loss of life and claimed the operation was necessary for galactic stability. It offered no names, no trials, and no compensation. The word massacre was never used. On Earth, the waiting ended. Park Sajan stood in a secure room beneath the Pacific, surrounded by people who had not worn uniforms in years. Old admirals, retired engineers, strategic planners who had been told their ideas were outdated and unnecessary. A single image hovered in the center of the room. Aaron 9 before and after. "We were warned this could happen," Sajin said quietly. "We prepared just in case," no one argued. Across the solar system, doors long sealed began to open. Shipyards hidden inside asteroids activated for the first time in decades. Factories that once built exploration vessels shifted production without announcement. Civilian industries received new orders under Emergency Authority Choid. UNA reviewed weapons designs that had never been shown to the Galactic Union. They were not superweapons. They were survival tools. Systems designed to fight when outnumbered, cut off, and hunted. Humanity had learned these lessons on its own planet long before it reached the stars. Publicly, Earth said nothing. Privately, everything changed. Military academies reopened old simulations. Supply routes were mapped not for trade, but for denial. Every colony was reviewed, reinforced, or evacuated in silence. Humanity did not panic. It organized in alien space. The attack on Era 9 was already fading from attention. The galaxy was large, and human worlds were few. Many believed humans would complain, then adapt. That had been their pattern. They did not see the signals moving through deep space. They did not hear the engines warming in the dark. On Earth, a memorial was held for the dead. There were no speeches about revenge. Only names read slowly, one by one. When it ended, billions watched as the planet went dark for a full minute. No lights, no transmissions. Just silence. Then, in orbit above Earth, a single unmarked ship powered on. It did not fire. It did not threaten. It waited. The galaxy did not yet understand what that silence meant, but it would. Earth did not erupt into chaos after the massacre. There were no riots, no mass panic, and no calls for immediate revenge. Instead, the planet entered a deep and heavy quiet. Cities continued to function, but people spoke softly. News channels showed memorial walls instead of debates. Schools paused lessons to remember the dead. Even the ocean seemed calmer, as if the world itself was holding its breath. For Hanmira, the silence was worse than anger. She worked longer hours than ever, reviewing every record related to Era 9. She read sensor data until her eyes burned. Every number confirmed the same truth. The colony had posed no threat. There were no hidden weapons, no forbidden research, nothing that could justify what had happened. She prepared a full report for the Galactic Union, supported by clear evidence. It was ignored. Instead, the Union sent another message. It warned humanity not to escalate tensions. It advised restraint. It spoke as if humans were children who had lost control of their emotions. Mira closed the message and did not respond. Across Earth, governments met in emergency councils. These meetings were not broadcast. No flags were shown. No speeches were made. Leaders listened to military planners and scientists who had waited decades for this moment, but had never wanted it to come. Park Sejun stood before a global defense assembly, his voice steady and calm. "We will not strike in anger," he said. "We will not rush. That is what they expect. We will prepare until failure is impossible." No one objected. Choi Yuna oversaw the reactivation of long-sealed facilities. Some were buried deep under mountains. Others drifted beyond Pluto, cold and dark. These places were built in secret during humanity's early expansion, when no one fully trusted the galaxy. They were insurance against extinction. Workers arrived without celebration. There were no banners. People simply did their jobs. Engineers tested engines that had never flown. Soldiers trained with equipment their parents were never told existed. Everything moved quietly, efficiently, and without fear. On Luna, a group of young recruits watched old combat recordings from Earth's past wars. They expected chaos and rage. Instead, they saw patience. They saw humans losing battles, retreating, and returning stronger. Their instructors explained a simple rule. Humans endure, one officer said. Then they adapt. Beyond human space, the galaxy continued as normal. Trade routes stayed open. Councils argued about tariffs and borders. The destruction of Era 9 became a footnote, discussed briefly, and then forgotten. Some species even praised the operation as necessary. That belief was their first mistake. In a quiet orbital station, Yuntaesak prepared for a role he never wanted. He had been chosen not for his anger, but for his control. His task was not to threaten, but to speak when the time came. Until then, he studied every alien language, every cultural weakness. Every political fault line, he learned that many species feared, humans without understanding why. They think we are unpredictable, he told Mira during a secure call. We are, she replied. Just not in the way they expect. Months passed. Humanity continued to mourn. Names of the dead were carved into stone, metal, and digital memory, but grief did not slow progress. It sharpened it. Each loss became a reason to be precise, to be careful, to be unstoppable. In the outer systems, fleets began to move. Not in large groups, but in small, quiet formations. Ships traveled dark, using passive sensors only. Their designs were simple, efficient, and hard to detect. They carried no markings. Kim Sora took command of one such carrier group. She was not famous. She did not want to be. Her orders were clear. Observe, learn, do not engage. She followed them exactly. Her fleet watched alien patrols pass without notice. They mapped defenses that had not changed in centuries. They learned how slow the galaxy had become. Most species had never fought a true war. They relied on treaties and assumptions. Humanity relied on preparation. Back on Earth. Children asked questions their parents struggled to answer. Why did they attack us? Are we going to die too? Parents told the truth without lies or fear. We will protect you. As weeks turned into months, something else happened. The fear that aliens expected never came. Instead, humanity grew calm, focused. The world felt unified in a way it had not been for generations. Even critics of war noticed it. This is not rage, one historian said. This is resolve. The Galactic Union finally noticed changes in human activity. Trade volumes shifted. Communication patterns altered. But when questioned, human representatives gave polite, empty answers. They followed every rule, signed every form, revealed nothing. That was the second mistake. Choi Yun-ha authorized final testing of systems that had only existed on paper. Defensive networks that could operate without command. Ships that could fight even after losing their crews. These were not acts of cruelty. They were acts of survival. Never again, she whispered, as a test completed successfully in a deep space facility. Park Sajin reviewed casualty projections. They were high. He accepted them without hesitation. Humanity had learned long ago that peace had a cost, and survival demanded payment. But he also saw something else. Probability. Curves began to shift. Humanity was no longer the weaker force. On the anniversary of the massacre, Earth held another memorial. This one was different. There were no tears, only quiet strength. When the last name was spoken, a single signal was sent from Earth into the void. It carried no words. It carried intent. In distant systems, sensors briefly flickered. Alien analysts dismissed it as background noise. That was the third mistake. Humanity was done waiting. The galaxy simply did not know it yet. The message was sent at a time chosen with care. Not during a crisis. Not during a council vote. It was sent during a normal cycle when the galaxy felt safe and distracted, across thousands of systems. Screens activated at the same moment. Military channels. Trade networks. Civilian relays. The signal bypassed standard filters without breaking any known law. It was clean, legal, and impossible to ignore. Yoon Tae-sok appeared on the screen. He did not wear a uniform. He stood in a simple room, light gray walls behind him. His voice was calm, his posture relaxed. He spoke slowly so every translator could keep pace. This message is from humanity, he said. We will speak once. In council chambers, alien leaders leaned forward. Some expected threats. Others expected emotional pleas. They received neither. A civilian colony was destroyed, Tae-sok continued. 9 million human lives were ended. No warning was given. No proof was shown. No justice followed. He paused, allowing the words to settle. We asked for answers. We were given excuses. No anger entered his voice. Today, Humanity declares war on those responsible for the massacre, and on any power that protects them. Gasps spread through chambers across the galaxy. Some delegates laughed. Others shouted objections. Several demanded clarification. Tasok raised one hand. "This is not a request," he said. "This is notice." The signal ended. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then alarms began to sound. In border systems, long-range sensors detected movement where there had been none. Human fleets appeared from deep space, emerging from stealth at distances thought impossible. They did not form massive armadas. They moved in precise, controlled groups. Kimsora watched the tactical display aboard her carrier as targets appeared one by one. Her orders had changed. "Begin Phase 1, her operations officer said. She nodded. Human ships did not rush forward. They cut communications first. Relays went dark. Command chains broke. Then they struck supply depots, fuel stations, and shipyards. Not cities. Not civilian habitats. Alien commanders struggled to respond. Their fleets were built to show strength, not to react. Orders took too long. Messages failed to reach their destinations. Within hours, entire sectors were blind. On Earth, people watched the declaration replay in silence. There was no cheering, no celebration. Families held hands. Veterans closed their eyes and listened to the tone of Tysek's voice. They recognized it. It was the sound of a promised park. Sejin monitored the early engagements from a secure command center. Casualty reports came in steadily. Losses were expected. He focused on objectives, not numbers. "Proceed as planned," he said again and again. Choi Yun-ha watched weapon systems perform exactly as designed. Human ships absorbed damage that would have destroyed older models. Crews worked without panic, following training drilled into them over years of quiet preparation in one system. An alien patrol attempted to defend a fuel hub. They broadcast warnings and threats. A human frigate answered with silence, then disabled their engines with a single precise strike. The patrol surrendered. Human Marines boarded, secured the station, and left without harming the crew. Word spread quickly. "This is not how humans fight," some alien officers said. They were wrong. This was exactly how humans fought, in another sector. Resistance was stronger. Automated defense platforms opened fire the moment human ships appeared. Kimsora's carrier took a direct hit. The bridge shook. Warning lights flared. "Damage report," she said calmly. "Superficial," came the reply. She ordered a controlled retreat, drawing the defenses into a firing pattern that exposed their power core. A single bomber wing ended the fight. The station went dark. No cheers followed. Across the galaxy, fear began to replace disbelief. Trade halted. Insurance networks collapsed. Neutral species scrambled to declare distance from the attackers. Humanity did not stop. They moved methodically, following lists prepared months earlier. Each target served a purpose. Each strike reduced the enemy's ability to coordinate, not their population. Oguan led a marine unit boarding a damaged alien cruiser, drifting near a trade lane. The crew resisted at first. Yuan ordered non-lethal suppression. When the fighting ended, he spoke to the captured captain. "We don't want your ship," Juan said. "We want you to stop." The captain stared at him in disbelief. "This is war," the alien said. "Yes," Jiwan replied. "That's why you're still alive." Not all encounters ended so cleanly in several systems. Human ships were destroyed when enemy commanders chose overwhelming force. Crews died holding positions so evacuation convoys could pass safely. Their names were recorded immediately. Their families were notified with honor. Humanity did not hide its losses. It learned from them. The Galactic Union called an emergency session. Arguments filled the chamber. Some demanded retaliation. Others urged surrender. Many realized too late how little they understood humans. "They planned this," one delegate whispered. For a long time, Onmira watched the session remotely. She felt no satisfaction, only a cold clarity. The evidence she had once prepared no longer mattered. Justice had changed shape. As the first day of war ended, human fleets held key positions across multiple regions. Supply lines were broken. Communication remained unstable. The galaxy's confidence was gone. On Earth, Park Sejin finally allowed himself to rest for a moment. He looked at a single image on his console. Aaron 9, before the fire. "We remember," he said quietly. In deep space, Yuan Taesak prepared another message. This one would not be broadcast to everyone. It was addressed to those who still believed humans could be. Intimidated, he did not hurry. Humanity had waited long enough. Now, it would move at its own pace. The galaxy had heard the declaration. It was about to understand the meaning. War changed the shape of the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Trade lanes that had been open for centuries fell silent. Navigation beacons went dark. Insurance networks collapsed under losses they could not measure. Neutral worlds closed their ports and prayed to be ignored. Everywhere, the same question spread from system to system. How did humans do this so quickly? The answer was simple. They had planned to lose. Human fleets did not try to hold territory in the old way. They struck, withdrew, and struck again somewhere else. Every move forced the enemy to react. Every reaction cost time, fuel, and trust. Alien commanders began to argue with each other. Orders conflicted. Fleets arrived too late or not at all. Kim Sora's carrier group moved along the edge of a major supply route. Her pilots flew with strict limits. No hero moves. No chasing damaged ships. Every action followed a rule written long before the war began. Disrupt. Don't dominate, she reminded her officers. They disabled cargo hubs and left. They sabotaged shipyards and vanished. Each time, the enemy rushed reinforcements that found nothing left to fight. Frustration spread through alien command structures in one system. A coalition fleet tried to bait human forces into a large battle. They gathered dozens of ships around a populated world. Believing humans would hesitate, they were wrong. Human fleets appeared at extreme range and targeted orbital control systems instead. Defense grids failed. Traffic control collapsed. Civilian transports were trapped in orbit. Ogwan's marine unit boarded evacuation stations under fire. They held corridors so non-combatants could escape. When an enemy cruiser moved to fire on the station, a human destroyer placed itself directly in the line of fire. The destroyer did not survive. Neither did the cruiser. G1 watched the wreckage drift away. He recorded the loss and continued the evacuation. "This is what they mean," one Marine said quietly. "By endurance." "Yes," Guan replied. "And by choice." Across the galaxy, stories like this spread faster than official reports. Refugees spoke of human ships that took hits meant for civilians. Of crews that stayed behind so others could live. Fear of humans mixed with confusion. "They are not monsters," some said. "That makes it worse," others replied. On Earth, Choi Yun-ha faced constant pressure to escalate. Some leaders wanted faster victories. Stronger weapons, shorter wars, she refused. "We are not here to burn the galaxy," she said. "We are here to break its will to hurt us again." Her teams improved systems daily. Damage control routines grew faster. AI support reduced crew losses. Human ships became harder to kill with every battle. Park Sejin studied enemy behavior patterns. He noticed something important. Alien forces avoided prolonged engagements. They expected humans to tire. They believed the war would slow. They did not understand humans. On Earth, factories ran without pause. People volunteered for longer shifts. Children sent messages to crews they had never met. Not words of hate, but of trust. "Come home safe," many wrote. The war entered its second phase. Human fleets began to appear deeper in enemy space. They struck command centers and data vaults. Secrets spilled into the open. Evidence of the Aaron 9 decision spread across networks. Han Myra released the files at a time chosen carefully. Not during a battle. During a council broadcast, screens across the galaxy filled with proof, orders, votes, cold. Discussions about acceptable losses, The lie collapsed. Several species withdrew support immediately. Others panicked and demanded emergency talks. A few doubled down. Choosing pride over survival, those choices had consequences, Kim. Sora's carrier group was ordered to intercept a reinforcement fleet moving toward a breakaway system. The enemy outnumbered her 3-1. She studied the map in silence. "Set the trap," she said. Human ships scattered, appearing damaged and disorganized. The enemy chased, confident of victory. Then gravity mines activated. Space twisted. Engines failed. Human bombers struck from hidden angles. The battle ended in minutes. Sora recorded the result and moved on. Losses continued on both sides, but the pattern was clear. Humanity controlled the pace. When humans fought, it was because they chose to, in one distant system. A human fleet was surrounded while protecting a refugee convoy. Escape was impossible. The fleet commander transmitted a final message. "Hold the line." They did. Hours later, the convoy reached safety. The fleet did not. On Earth, their names were added to the memorial. No speeches followed. Only quiet respect. Fear reached the highest levels of alien leadership. Some worlds began dismantling their own weapons, hoping humans would see restraint and spare them. Humanity noticed and remembered. Yoon. Tysak sent targeted messages to defecting systems. They were brief and clear. Stand down. Protect civilians. Cooperate. Those who did were spared further attacks. Those who did not were isolated. The galaxy began to fracture. For the first time in centuries. The idea of human leadership was spoken aloud, not with admiration, but with resignation. They fight like extinction is familiar to them. One alien analyst said human history was full of near endings, plagues, wars, collapses, survival, had shaped them long before space travel as weeks turned into months. Resistance weakened. Supply shortages grew severe. Commanders surrendered without firing shots. Park Sejin reviewed updated projections. The end was no longer distant, but he knew better than to rush. "This war ends when the lesson is learned," he said, in deep space. Human fleets continued to move, not in anger, in purpose. The galaxy was beginning to understand. Humanity was not fighting to win battles, it was fighting to make sure there would never be another Aaron. 9. The war no longer felt distant to anyone in the early days. Many worlds believed they could stay out of it. They closed borders and declared neutrality. By now, they understood there was no true distance left in the galaxy. The war touched supply chains, food routes, medicine, and information. Even systems that never saw a human ship felt the pressure. For humans, the cost became personal. On Earth, messages arrived every hour. Some carried good news. Many did not. Families gathered in quiet rooms to hear the same calm voices deliver the same careful words. Your son served with honor. Your sister protected civilians. Your partner did not suffer. Grief returned. But it was different now. It was sharp and heavy, carried alongside pride and purpose. Ogwan felt that weight every time he put on his armor. His unit had been redeployed again and again, always to the hardest missions. Evacuations under fire. Boarding actions against desperate crews. Holding corridors so others could escape. He never complained. None of them did. During one operation, Juan's unit was ordered to secure a refugee hub caught between two hostile fleets. The station's shields were failing. Thousands of non-combatants crowded the halls, afraid and exhausted. "We buy them time," Juan said. "How much?" One Marine asked. "As much as we can." Enemy ships arrived faster than expected. Fire tore through the station's outer ring. Giwan's unit fought room by room, falling back slowly, always counting minutes instead of ground. When evacuation transports finally cleared the station, Juan received a final order: detonate. Looked at the faces of his remaining soldiers. "Move," he said. They escaped in the last. shuttle moments before the station vanished in light. None of them spoke. During the return flight, in another region, Kim Sora faced a choice she had trained for but hoped never to make. Her carrier group was holding a choke point critical to civilian movement. Enemy forces gathered in overwhelming numbers. She could retreat and save her ships. Or she could stay. She stayed. Her pilots flew until fuel ran dry. Damage crews worked in open vacuum to keep engines alive. When the carrier finally broke apart, its remaining escorts held position until the last. Civilian convoy passed, only fragments remained. Sora survived. Many did not. The galaxy watched these battles in disbelief. Humans did not fight to preserve fleets. They fought to preserve people. That choice confused alien strategists who valued assets over lives. Fear deepened. On Earth, Choi Yun-ha reviewed casualty numbers late into the night. They were higher than projected. She approved changes without hesitation. Armor was reinforced. Escape systems improved. Training cycles adjusted. Every death changed the next battle. Han Mira spent her days speaking with defecting worlds. Many came in secret, afraid of retaliation. "We did not know," they said. "You knew enough," she replied. "Now choose." Some chose to help. Others chose silence. Both choices mattered. In one system, an enemy fleet made a final stand near a populated world, hoping humans would hesitate again. Park Sejin authorized a limited strike that avoided the planet but destroyed the fleet's command ship. The remaining vessels surrendered. Humanity accepted. Prisoners were treated. Civilians were protected. The contrast became impossible to ignore. Still, war demanded blood. A human defense group was ambushed while escorting medical transports. Outnumbered and cut off, they fought until ammunition was gone. The transports escaped. No one else did. On Earth, their names were added to the growing list. Children learned them. In school, not as heroes of violence, as guardians. The Galactic Union attempted another negotiation. This time their message carried fear instead of authority. They asked for ceasefire talks. They promised reforms. They offered inquiries. Park Sejin listened. Then he asked one question: who will answer for Aaron 9? There was no reply. Talks ended. The war entered a brutal phase. Supply shortages became famine on some worlds. Governments collapsed. Military leaders fled or turned on each other. Human fleets advanced slowly, deliberately. Never losing control, Yuntasik addressed. Surrendering systems with the same calm voice he used on the first day. Lay down weapons. Protect civilians. This war ends when the threat ends, many complied. Those who did not face isolation, not annihilation. Humanity was teaching a lesson written in loss near the ruins of Aaron 9. A memorial beacon was deployed even as the war continued. It broadcast the names of the dead into space, endlessly. Some alien ships altered course when they detected it. Others powered down their weapons. For humans, the cost was clear. Victory was no longer a word of pride. It was a burden. As Park Sejin reviewed the latest reports, he saw the truth in the numbers. The galaxy was breaking, not from hatred, from understanding. Humanity was willing to lose everything to make sure this never happened again. And that was what truly frightened the stars. The war reached a quiet moment that felt more dangerous than any battle across the galaxy. Fighting slowed. Not because of peace, but because many sides no longer knew how to continue. Supply lines were broken. Command structures were empty. Old alliances had collapsed under fear and doubt. Human fleets held key routes and positions. But they did not advance blindly. They waited. Park Sejin watched this phase with careful attention. He understood it well. This was the moment when desperation could cause the most damage. "Do not push," he ordered. "Let them decide." Many already had. Defecting systems sent encrypted signals asking for protection. Some offered intelligence. Others offered safe harbor for civilians trapped by the war. Humanity accepted help, but only under clear conditions. No attacks on civilians. No. Hidden weapons, full transparency. Those who agreed were spared further harm. Nari became the face of these talks. She had once been a diplomat who believed words could prevent war. Now she used words to end one. She traveled between systems aboard unmarked ships, carrying terms that were firm but fair. "We are not here to rule you," she told frightened councils. "We are here to make sure no one ever does this again." Some listened. Others did not. In one system, a ruling council rejected the terms and ordered a final strike against a nearby human fleet. They hoped to prove strength and force. Negotiation, they failed. Human ships intercepted the attack before it reached civilian space. The battle was short and decisive. The Council's military power vanished in a single engagement. Hours later, the same council requested talks. Nari declined. "Your chance has passed," she said. The message was clear. Choices mattered. On the front lines, soldiers felt the change. Fewer shots were fired. More ships surrendered without resistance. Boarding actions became arrests instead of fights. Juan led his unit onto a massive command vessel that had once directed operations against human colonies. The halls were quiet. The crew waited unarmed. "We surrender." Their captain said. G1 nodded and ordered restraints applied. "This war is over for you," he said. "Sit down." As prisoners were escorted away, Juan noticed something he had not seen before. Relief. Even the enemy wanted it to end. Kim Sora, recovering from her injuries, reviewed battle footage from earlier months. She saw the cost clearly now. Ships lost. Crews gone. Decisions made under pressure that could never be undone. She did not regret them, but she carried them, Choi. Yunha authorized the unveiling of humanity's final deterrent systems. These were not weapons meant for attack. They were shields, networks, autonomous defenses designed to respond instantly to mass civilian threats. Their existence was announced publicly. "This is what protects us now," she said. "So no one has to die like this again." The galaxy listened. Fear changed into calculation. Many leaders realized the truth. Humanity could continue the war for years if needed. Its industry was intact. Its people were united. Its losses, though painful, had not broken its will. They had underestimated endurance. Hanmira returned to the evidence files one last time. She compiled everything into a single archive. Orders, votes, communications, names, nothing was hidden. She released it to every known network. The response was immediate. Public outrage erupted. On worlds that had once supported the massacre, protests filled streets. Governments fell within days. Some leaders were arrested by their own people before human forces ever arrived. The galaxy was turning on itself. Park Sejun allowed a small breath of relief. "The war is ending," he said. "Now comes the hard part." The perpetrators of the massacre attempted one final move. They gathered what remained of their forces around their home system, placing defenses near civilian populations. Believing humans would not attack, humanity did not rush. Nari sent a final offer. Surrender. Open your systems. Submit to judgment. The reply was silence. Human fleets took position at extreme range. They activated containment fields that sealed the system without firing a shot. No ships entered. No ships left. Trade stopped. Communications faded. Time passed. Internal pressure did the rest. Within weeks, the system's leadership collapsed. Their own citizens demanded surrender. It was accepted. Human Marines entered the system without resistance. Arrests were made. Evidence was secured. Civilians were protected. The war, for all practical purposes, was over. Across the galaxy, weapons powered down. Fleets returned home or remained under watch. Trade slowly resumed. On Earth, people gathered again in public spaces. This time, not for mourning, for reflection. No victory parades were held, no speeches of triumph, only a single message broadcast from Earth. The threat is ended. The cost is remembered. Park Sejun visited a quiet room where the names of the fallen were displayed. He stood alone, reading until his eyes ached. "We did what we had to," he said softly, "in distant systems." Alien leaders studied the aftermath with new understanding. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy, it had reshaped it. The final reckoning still remained. Justice was coming, and the galaxy was ready too. Listen, the galaxy did not celebrate the end of the war. It paused. Systems powered back on slowly. Trade routes reopened with caution. Ships traveled with lights bright and weapons silent. Every movement carried memory. Every signal carried doubt. Humanity did not rush to claim anything. Human fleets remained where they were, not as conquerors, but as witnesses. Their presence was calm and constant, a reminder. The first trials began in neutral space, not on Earth, not under human flags. A new tribunal was formed, watched by hundreds of species. The architects of the massacre were brought forward, no longer surrounded by power. No longer protected by distance, they looked small. Evidence filled the chamber. Orders, votes, casual. Discussions of acceptable losses. The destruction of Aaron 9 was no longer a rumor or a debate. It was fact. Han Myra stood among the observers. This was the end of the work she had begun in a dark room long ago. Justice had taken time, but it had arrived intact. The verdicts were clear. Those responsible were removed from authority, imprisoned, or exiled. Their systems were placed under supervision, their militaries dismantled. No executions were carried out. Humanity did not need blood to make its point. Across the galaxy, reactions spread in waves. Some worlds felt relief. Others felt fear. Many felt shame. The belief that humans were weak was gone forever. Park Sejun addressed a final council session. His voice carried no pride. "We did not seek this war," he said. "We will not repeat it. But we will remember." No one challenged him. Kim Sora returned to space for the first time since the war ended. She stood on the deck of a rebuilt carrier, watching new crews train. The ship bore no markings of victory, only a small emblem near the bridge, Aaron 9. She touched it once, then turned away. Oguan visited a memorial station built at the edge of the ruined colony. The beacon still broadcast names into the dark. Ships from many species slowed when they passed. G1 stood in silence. "We held," said softly. The beacon answered only with light. Yoon Tae-sok resigned his position weeks later. His work was done. He returned to civilian life without ceremony. History would remember his words, but he did not seek it. "The message was never about me," he told a reporter. "It was about limits." Choi Yun-ha oversaw the final activation of humanity's new defense network. It stretched across human space, quiet and watchful. Not a weapon of fear, but of certainty. "Never again," she said. Beeknari continued her work, helping shape new laws that protected smaller worlds from quiet erasure. Many alien leaders listened closely now. They had learned what happened when warnings were ignored on Earth. I've returned to familiar rhythms. Children went back to school. Cities rebuilt damaged districts. Names of the fallen remained carved in stone, not hidden away. The war became history, but not a forgotten one. Years later, new species entering the galaxy were told the story of humanity, not as monsters, not as heroes, as survivors. They were told how humans endured loss, waited in silence, and acted with purpose, how they chose restraint over destruction, and memory over revenge. Near the former borders of the war, human patrol ship passed an alien vessel traveling without escorts. They exchanged quiet signals and continued on their way. Trust was fragile, but it existed. At the site of Aaron 9, the memorial beacon continued to shine, not as a threat, as a promise. The galaxy had finally realized the Truth. Humanity did not dominate because it loved war. It survived because it remembered, and because when its patience ended. It never forgot why it fought,